right when it was early in agencies, it made so many millionaires.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, I'll go head to head with who created the most millionaires
Right.
from people from the ghetto. I'm like, I might win that award. I don't know how to prove it, but crazy, or at least people went from zero to making 100 grand a year, and still making money now.
Yeah.
I'm here in Denmark. There's a kid here, started following me at 16. He made 2 mil this year. He's like 21. And I know it's real because his mom has FaceTime me crying.
Right.
He bought me a house when I was 17. When he was 17, he was making 250 grand when he was like a sophomore in high school. I was going, what the hell was I doing?
Yeah.
So in terms of making what you make, I think the guiding light, you need to follow the golden rule. Like, what would you want somebody teaching you?
Right.
You know, I think about that a lot. I'm like, this world's so fucked up. Everything I should have taught. I'm like, where is everybody? People say it's cool to say everybody's sheep, but I'm like, you don't even know the people who say everybody else is sheep. I'm like, you're sheep yourself.
Right. For being so
There's
nihilistic about
levels
it.
to unsheeping yourself. I'm not even sure you can do it, but the things I wish I learned. So now I'm much more committed to like the 4 pillars of the good life. I have this thing called the 32. As I have this structure now. So you have the one purpose of life. You got to know your purpose of life. Then that breaks into 4 pillars of the good life. Then each of the 4 pillars break into 3 foundations. Now you have the 12 foundations. Each of the 12 foundations break into 3 tenets. So you have the 36 tenets. So like, that's really what the world needs. And so I'm glad we're talking about it because I sometimes I don't have time, but I wish somebody had taught me the 36 tenets. The purpose of life is a complex one. The 4 pillars of good life are good, the 12 foundations, but you really need that. There's 36 things you have to learn. And if you can learn those 36 things, that's probably the greatest thing a parent can impart on their kids or a teacher can impart on their student, you know?
I'm a retired military officer, and when I built my first program, I call it the vegetables and dessert, right? The dessert was, if you've seen my social media, it's just full of me at parties with girls. I host bikini competitions. I do all this crazy stuff. And that's what draws a lot of people into my program. And I'm like, okay, that's the dessert. They want to learn how to throw these events, how to get people to show up, how to throw these massive parties, how to use this for networking, all this kind of stuff. And then I'm like, well, but here's the vegetables. I teach all the leadership study that I learned being an officer in the U.S. military. And it's one of these things where like, I know that program would not sell anywhere near as much as the first one, but it's what these guys need so much more because they can't hold eye contact. They don't know how to speak with any sort of tonality or inflection that shows any level of competency, massive amounts of passive aggressive behavior, massive amounts of people pleasing. That is really, we have the saying in Men of Action. Do you know what we call someone who lies in order to spare someone's feelings? We call them a fucking liar. That's what we call them. So like we have these things where it's like you have to learn like unmitigated, unbelievable levels of honesty. The guys who stay with me long time, they appreciate that. But a lot of the guys initially get in the course, they're like, Michael, I want your lifestyle where you're surrounded by 50, 60 girls all the time. And I'm like, well, that part of it is it's an underlying thing that I do in order to create status, in order to become a better networker for the podcast and for other jobs. I'm a ring announcer now for boxing matches, these different things that I've always wanted to do. And I use my network in order to build that. Let me show you how to build this network. It doesn't have to be just like mine. I have accountants. I have a lot of doctors. I have a professor at Harvard. He's also one of my clients. And I try to help these guys. Has nothing to do with women. But you're right. Like you said before, it's like, what do the people want? They're like, even the women, I have some female clients, even they want that part of it. So it is really interesting where you have the dessert and you have the vegetables, right? And for me, it's like there's this part in entrepreneurship, winning mindset. I did an entire pillar on evolutionary psychology, because I really think, again, that is something that self-help needs, a testable model of psychology where you can predict people's motivations. And there's all this stuff that was in there, but everyone still wants the party. Like, you know this because you have the Lamborghini. That's literally what the Lamborghini was. The Lamborghini was the dessert. Lamborghini is the thing that draws them in. And then later on, it's like, you know what, how you get this Lamborghini? These fucking books that you made fun of when you were in high school, these books that you didn't want to read, this is how you get the Lamborghini. Here are the vegetables. Here's the dessert. There's the dessert right next to me. Here's the vegetables you got to eat to get to that dessert. And it's hard because you, in your mind, you're like, man, I wish these motherfuckers would just listen to this great knowledge that I have for them. Instead, they're like, no, bro, I'm going to buy crypto. It's going to go to $1 million and I'm going to be a millionaire. And that's how I'm going to do this. Right. And it's man, you just want to grab them and shake them, you know, but it is very difficult. So it's really interesting you talking about that too, about that whole thing about